got the YouTube channel open. All right, so we should be live by now. So it says live, so we're live. Let's call it that. Welcome everyone to the Community Engineering Hangout. This is going to be about last month, so April. We'll also look through 2.3 release, a bit of an update from Olga, and then we're going to meet 3 of our maintainers. So our maintainers help us out with our GitHub, making sure we're processing pull requests and issues, helping us out with that point of view. So we want to learn a little bit more about them as well, so that you guys who may be contributing can find out a bit more about who is processing your pull requests or who could be processing your issues. So remember, if you have any questions, drop it in the live chat and we'll get that on to the people. Yeah, let's start up with an update from April. So let me just share the stats. Should be this window. So hopefully you can see my stats page. So this is our, yeah, here we go. This is our internal stats page, which should have all the information about our pull requests and our processing. Hopefully you can see it all. Let me see if I can zoom a little bit though. That's not zoom. No, that's not zoom. All right, so yeah, there we go. That's probably a bit better to see. So for April, we processed 416 pull requests. Of those 416, 324 were merged. We rejected 92, and 286 were created in the whole month of April. So we're actually processing a bit of our backlog as well, which is great to see. There are still 200, or at the time that this was, at the end of the month, there were 263 pull requests still outstanding across all our repositories. So this is across all repositories, not just the main repository, I forgot to say. And we're running at an acceptance rate of 78%, which is great to see. We also have had 120 unique contributors over the month of April, and of those 120, 45 of them were new, which is fantastic. And you can see, like, over since May last year, we've been kind of, oh, well, no, since September last year, we've been kind of getting at least 50 or around the 50 mark for new contributors, which personally I think is fantastic to see. I love seeing new people getting involved in the system, getting involved in contribution, getting involved in our different projects, such as the 7.2, the bulk API, that sort of stuff. So I love seeing those, and I think that's pretty great stats from our pull requests this month. Then what I'd like to say is for May coming up, we have a couple of events that I'd like to highlight. First of all is tomorrow in Frankfurt, and some very hard to pronounce Polish name. I'm not even going to try, I don't think. We have a contribution day that'll be focusing on GraphQL and bulk API. Comrap in Germany, Ventura and Gate Software in Poland. So we will be working on the bulk API. So if you have any interest in that, get into our Slack, get into the bulk API channel, and we will be sharing this event there as well. If you can make it to one of the venues, then feel free to reach out to one of the companies or register there. That would be great. And that is the 12th of May. On the 18th of May, we are going back again to Poland. Poland seems to be pretty big this month for contributions. We are going to Row Open Source in Wrocław, I think it's pronounced, I hope. And we will be doing a Magento contribution day, along with some other people will be doing a Vue storefront hackathon. So I'm pretty excited about that. This is a whole open source conference, so we're also going to be talking about open source on the Saturday, but there'll be a hackathon the day before. So if you're interested, that is a Row Open Source, and that is Devante in Poland. On the same day, on the 19th, on the Saturday, the 19th, same day as the conference, We have a distributed contribution day across India. So India is a pretty big place. I've been there. And what me Magento India wanted to do was kind of cover as much of India with helping them out with contributions. So whether you're in Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Chandigarh, I think that is, Kolkata, Kochi, or Surat, there is local locations, but of course you can also get involved online. So reach out to Meet Magento India if you want to get involved in that. That is on the 19th of May. Miguel's going to be supporting them, I assume remotely, for that as one of our maintainers. So that would be great. And then Meet Magento, as part of Meet Magento Italy, we're also running a contribution day, and that is on the 26th of May. So if you're going to be there at Meet Magento Italy, I would recommend tagging on that extra day, coming down and doing the contribution day. So again, if you want any more information, check out the Meet Magento Meet Magento Italy, this time, Meet Magento Italy page, and you can find out more information there. Yeah, that's kind of the community engineering update. And now I'd love to hand over to Olga, who is going to give us an update based on 2.3.
Hello, everyone. So I'm a lead architect in Magento, and yeah, I'll go through 2.3 updates. Let me share my screen now, and yeah, I'll try to squeeze my 35 minutes Imagine presentation into just 10 minutes that David gave me, but let's start. First of all, I want to update everybody on terminology, so we are all on the same page. The new terms that you will hear are Magento Open Source, which is the new name for...
Sorry, Olga. It's a black screen at the moment, I think.
Really? Okay. Let me try once again. Maybe I'll try to share just entire screen. Maybe it works better.
Yeah, I think that'll work.
Is it better?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. Okay, so Magento Open Source is a new name for Community Edition. Magento Commerce is a new name for Enterprise Edition, so you will hear these new names now. And the new term will be Core Bundled Extension, or CBE, which is an extension developed by a third-party vendor, but which is bundled with a Magento product. Now about backward incompatible changes, I don't have much time to go through them, but right now we have a pre-release documentation for Magento 2.3 on our DevDocs website, so you can go there and find some information about 2.3 already. And I want to say that it does not give any guarantee that this is the state that we will be releasing Magento with, but this can give at least some insights for you to what you can expect in 2.3, as well as it can be a good background for your feedback if you have any. Now about Magento and new features and our new directions. So PWAs, or Progressive Web Apps. I think many of you have seen this term many times in social networks, on different conferences, on Slack channel. We have a PWA channel in our Magento Slack. And what is it and what we are doing in Magento for it? So PWAs are reliable, fast, and engaging web applications by definition from Google. They may have offline support and push notifications, and so they can work as native apps. And why it's important is because it becomes a tool in a competition game. So if your web application is faster and more reliable, it can be ranked higher by Google, and it can increase conversion rates for your website. So it means that you will have more customers. So it becomes a trend, and it's really important to follow it. And in Magento, what we are doing, so right now we are working on PWA Studio, which is a set of tools that help developing Magento PWAs. And as a proof of concept, we are also working on a PWA theme that will be using those tools. There is a community project right now on PWA, so you can find it on the GitHub. You can contact community engineering team or just look at our repositories on GitHub, I think. You can probably also attach some links to the on the YouTube to the stream, I think, so you can go and look. And then, as I mentioned, one of the parts of or like properties of PWA is being fast. So in Magento, to achieve that, we are currently working on GraphQL support for Magento APIs. So in addition to existing REST and SOAP APIs, in Magento 2.3, we are adding GraphQL entry point. And what is GraphQL is basically, it's a query API language, which is specifically targeting, like it's specifically created for optimized queries for faster front end. And this is one of them. I would say important directions or important goals of GraphQL to be able to create pretty optimized requests to the backend. And it is achieved by reducing number of requests. So ideally, you should be able to request all the information you need in one request, in a single request. And in the same time, the architecture of GraphQL, or like the idea of GraphQL itself, is to allow to have independent backend development and front-end development. And how I would explain it is on a simple example. Let's say you have a backend implementation for supporting or supplying response for customer data, and then in totally separate module, you have support for product data. And in the same time, the third developer, front-end developer, wants to request both customer and product data. And he wants to do it in a single request, of course, for better better optimization. And with GraphQL, it becomes possible because GraphQL allows to combine both implementations on the backend and provide the requested data in a single request, like for the single request in one response. Additionally, GraphQL's idea is to be able for the front end to be able to specify what data you really need, and it reduces the data being sent from the server to the client. So in Magento 2.3, we are working on GraphQL, and here's an example of the request. It's a graphical extension for the Chrome. So on the left, you can see how the request looks like, and on the right, the response. In Magento 2.3, we will have, with 2.3.0 release, support for custom attribute data, logged in customer, products, categories, and URLs resolution for products, categories, and CMS pages. There is already documentation about GraphQL on our DevDocs website, so you can find more information there, and you can try and play with it. And it is also a community project right now, so we are starting a community project. So you can find it on the GitHub. Feel free to just go and look what's going on with GraphQL, or even better, contribute. And in the future, what we want to add is to have mutations for supporting checkout and payments, and the storefront GraphQL API for checkout, orders, and my account. And also there might be some improvements in GraphQL framework, especially based on the feedback on the initial implementation. Next, let's talk about database. So currently in Magento 2, to create or update database, we write scripts, PHP scripts. So those are PHP classes which are located in setup folder of a module. They are imperative and they can grow pretty large, especially with more and more updates added to the module. And they become also more complex because you have multiple conditions. For this version, I want to add this column. For that version, I already want to remove this column. It becomes really hard to track what's going on with your schema. So in 2.3, we are adding support for declarative schema. In Magento 2.3, you can declare a database schema in an XML file. So you just specify what tables, columns you need, and all other information that you need for your database. And now, if you need to change something in the future versions, you go and modify a specific line in your declarative schema. So the benefits of having declarative schema is, first of all, that it just declares desired state, and so you can easily understand what's the final state of the schema, so what we really expect. Also, it is idempotent, which means that it doesn't matter how many times you execute upgrade, the result will be the same. And by design, it also supports rollback, because how it works is Magento setup application just reads the difference, calculates the difference between current schema installed for your application and the declared schema, and based on this difference, just makes the changes to the database. So it doesn't matter whether you upgrade or you roll back. Additionally to the declarative schema, we will be still supporting PHP kind of approach for upgrades and installations. And those are called patches right now. So patches are supported for data upgrades, and this is the only way that we will be supporting. And for schema, we also provide patches approach, but those are not recommended. I mean, you can use them, but we usually recommend to go with the declarative way because it's much simpler. But if you have more complex steps for your upgrade, for example, you want to rename a column and in the same time you want to modify some data or move some data somewhere, then you can still write a PHP script which will be doing that. Magento framework provides multiple patch interfaces, so you can select which one suits your needs and implement a patch as you need. About old setup scripts, so in 2.3 we are adding this new declarative approach with patches for specific scenarios, but we will also be supporting old style setup scripts for some time, though we recommend you to start migrating, as in 2.4 we may remove this support. I'd recommend to go to our DevDocs documentation, which already has pages about declarative schema, and look what we provide. And there also we have information on which tools you can use to migrate your scripts to the declarative schema. So one of the tools that I want to mention is running existing installer upgrade script with a convert old scripts option. So in that case, in addition to executing the upgrade itself, the application, Magento application, will also generate a declarative schema based on the SQL queries that are being performed. Next, Asynchronous Web API. In 2.3, we are adding async web APIs on the framework level, which is great. And so basically what is async is that you can make async requests. But what is great is that any existing synchronous or like regular web API can be called asynchronously right now, and I mean post, put, or delete here. The difference will be is that instead of the result, you are getting the request ID, and then you can use a separate status reporting API to check the status of your request. To do an async request, you just add async prefix to the URL of regular web API request. On top of async API, we also added async bulk API, which allows you to send multiple entities in a single request. It is also implemented on the framework level, so the approach is the same. Just right now, just for the bulk API, you are adding async/bulk prefix to the URL. Both async APIs are based on the message queue, and the great news with 2.3, we are moving message queue to the open source. If you remember, this is the former community edition. Next, a small update on the Git repository. So it is about packaging, or actually about package versioning. As you know, Magento is distributed as composer packages. And before now, we also had versions for packages specified in composer JSON files in our Git repositories. Starting from 2.3, we are removing those versions from the Git repository because they were just confusing everyone. And the versions will be generated during publication. So for the final product, for the packages themselves, nothing changes. The versions will be still there, but versions will be absent in the Git repository to stop confusing developers. One more exciting update is that we are moving Elasticsearch also to open source. And also we are adding Elasticsearch 5 support. I want to mention that this was done as a community contribution. We will have, by the way, many community contributions in 2.3. So you will see this note on the top right many times in this session. So PHP 7.2 support. In 2.3, we are adding support for PHP 7.2, and in the same time, we are dropping support for 7.0. Also, as part of this effort, we are migrating from mcrypt to the Sodium library for encryption. It will be available most likely in one of the patch releases. It is a community project, so you can find it on the GitHub. There are still a couple tasks to work on. If you're interested, and you can just go there to at least look at the updates. MSI, or multi-source inventory, another community project, and it is specific in the way that it's really big. It's a large project, and it's like a real big feature in Magento. And what is multi-source inventory? So it's a feature which allows you to manage multiple locations for your products. As locations are called sources in Magento, that's why the feature is multi-source inventory. As I mentioned, it's a community project, so you also can find it on the GitHub, and you can follow what's going on there or even contribute. One important feature that was implemented as part of MSI project is reservation, and I really want to mention it because it is important. It may be really important not only for stores with multi-source inventory, but even for single-source inventory stores. So what is it about? In Magento, in base Magento implementation of inventory, we have a quantity of the product, and the quantity is part of the product entity itself. So what's the problem with it is that every time when an order is placed, we have to go and update this product entity. And at peak hours, if there are many orders for the same product, there is a big chance of having logs. In multi-source inventory project, how it was resolved, we added reservations. So in simple words, it's just a separate storage, let's say a table, which keeps record of all the reservations for the specific product. On an example, let's say we have 15 items of a specific product, and then somebody orders 5 of those items. Instead of going and modifying the product entity to reduce quantity, we just add a record to the reservations table with -5, which means that we reserve 5 items of this product. And then the next time when Magento application needs to calculate what's the quantity of this product, we go take the original quantity, which is 15, and add the reservations, which is -5. And we have 10 items for this product. It's called saleable quantity in Magento. And because all the reservations are being appended, they are not usually updated. It allows to avoid any logs during even peak hours. So this is a really important feature, even if you don't have multi-source inventory. Now, Page Builder. So Page Builder is a new feature in Magento which allows to manage page content for admin user by dragging and dropping components of the page. So it's a visual editor that replaces WYSIWYG and provides a visual way of editing the page. We will have a Page Builder released as a part of Magento Commerce in one of patch releases of 2.3, and also it will be available as a paid extension for Magento open source users. As I mentioned, an admin user can drag and drop components on the page, and each component is declared as an XML file, not surprisingly for Magento. And third-party developers can declare their own new components in the same way in their extensions, and those components will be available also on the page editing in admin. So what's the plan more specifically for Page Builder? First of all, we'll have early access program for selected partners. We want to look at how they can use our Page Builder and whether it's extensible enough, and collect some feedback. Then we'll have Page Builder Beta together with 2.3.0, also available for partners and for commerce merchants. None of those will be available on the marketplace, but it will be possible to install via Composer if you are in this program. And Page Builder J will be available with one of the patch releases of 2.3. So as I mentioned, it will be part of Magento Commerce, and it will be available as a paid extension on Marketplace. Now, more community features, even more. So Cache Management ACL is a new feature added to Magento, which allows to have more granular control over cache management. Then we have another community contribution, instant purchase. You may know it as one-click ordering from Amazon. Now we have the same feature in Magento. One more community contribution, Google reCAPTCHA. It will be available for customer and admin login forms. And two-factor authentication, again, community contribution. So it will support Authy, Do Security, UTF keys, and Google Authenticator providers. That's it. I don't know if it was 10 minutes or much more. I'm not sure, but it could be too fast. So there is a link to the full presentation from Imagine, where there are a little bit more details. I'll ask David to post it on YouTube as well, so you can find it and maybe go through a little bit more details on some of the items. Thank you, and if you have any questions, let me know.
Cool, thank you very much, Olga. I love seeing that because of how much comes from community contributions. I think it's pretty impressive to see how much of that is being driven or like supported by the community, or we do have one question already that's come in, and it's from Rebecca, and it's just asking, do we have any estimate on the release date for 2.3? I know this came up at Imagine as well.
Yeah, okay, now everything goes by plan. It's the first question. Okay, so right now we are just saying that it's 2018, no specific date, unfortunately. Maybe not surprisingly, but yeah, this is what I can tell now.
Cool, oh, that's fine. I know that we are planning, or we're working on getting 2.3 kind of pre-releases readily available via Composer as well. I saw a tweet today from Matthew Zimmerman about that. So I think that'd be a great opportunity for people to see and play around with 2.3 before it's officially released as well, which would be great. But we'll keep you up to date on that. Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much again. Stick around, and if any more questions come up for 2.3, we'll get them to Olga as well. But for now, we will move on, and we're going to meet some of our maintainers. So as I mentioned before, we don't just do this as a community engineering team in Magento itself, but we also have some of our community members helping us out with processing pull requests, giving feedback on GitHub issues, and yeah, helping the community give back. So it's awesome to see the community help the community give back. We're all community, right? So I thought it'd be a great idea to get to know them a bit more. So if you see them on GitHub, you might not just see them as an avatar on GitHub, but you actually see them as a real person, because they're real people. They have jobs, they have hobbies, they have passion, and it's awesome to get to know them a bit more. So let's start. Who shall I start with? Let's start with Matthias. How about you just introduce yourself shortly to everyone, and then we'll get on with some questions in a bit.
Okay. Hi, so my name is Matthias. I live in the beautiful city of Vienna in Austria, and I started out working with Magento in 2009. And yeah, also since then, by chance, I'm working for Lime Soda. So I'm there as a Magento developer and also a tech lead for our dev team.
Cool. Okay. And so you mentioned how you was getting involved with Lime Soda, the first Magento that you did?
Actually, yes. So I started a company, and they had done some OS commerce shops and some other things before. But actually, I think it was there for about 1 month or so, and my boss asked me, yeah, we got a lot of inquiries about Magento or e-commerce projects, but we don't know which software we should choose. And I said, yeah, I heard about this thing called Magento, and we might want to give it a try. And so basically, this was one of my first projects. So just having a look at Magento, and yeah, that's how it started out for me.
Can you remember what release that was?
Yes, so we started out with 1.3.
Okay.
Yes, and I think one of the earlier 1.3 releases, shortly after the launch, 1.4 came out, so we had to redo the front end. It was a fun time, yeah.
All right. So how did you first get involved with open source in general?
Actually, this was because of Zend framework. So I was a bit involved with Zend Framework 1, more on the docs side and the community side in a German community. And there was one guy, Patrick from Ireland, and he wrote a free ebook. This was called Zend Framework Surviving the Deep End. And I volunteered to do the German translation, and it was quite fun because he just wrote chapter after chapter and released it, and then I started to translate it to German. And so this was a quite nice way to also learn more and more about Zend Framework. And then I think in the end it had about 130 pages or something like that. So it was quite some nice work he did. And I still have it available on my website. And just a fun fact, one of these pages is still my most visited page ever on my Magento blog.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. That's cool. I think that's a really interesting way of kind of getting into open source and contributing. Translations is something we need. Like, I know my German's terrible, so I'd be happy if you translated my German. It'd be great. So I think it's an interesting way of getting involved that isn't just code contribution, but also, you know, either translation, documentation, that sort of stuff. It's all good, I think. Okay, so you've been a maintainer for how long now? Let's see if I can remember. I don't remember. How long have you been a maintainer?
It's a good question. I started somewhere around August last year. No, maybe a little bit earlier, I think. Yeah. So okay. Like 9 months, let's say it like that, more or less.
Okay. And for you, why give up that time and to us?
Because I want to see Magento succeed and to improve. So I don't have a lot of time. So there are some of our colleagues of the maintainers which are amazing with how much time they invest and how what they can process. So I try to do my part and at least process smaller pull requests. And I think it's just something that we all can have success from if Magento is a good product. And I also know how it is if you want to contribute and are not heard. And Magento has done a very good effort to improve on that. And so I just want to help with that.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's great to, even if you can only, I don't know, process, or even from a providing contributions point of view, you may think it's a small contribution, a little bit of time, but that can make such a big benefit to the project and to the product as a whole. So I think that's one good thing to look at. So for what do you think is like what looks like for a maintainer? What is like a day-to-day? Or you say you pick up a task. How do you find tasks? What do you look for?
Well, when I look through the list, I try to find areas where I'm kind of familiar in. Then I also, as I said, I also look at a little bit of the scope of the issue. So is it something which I think I can do properly? And then I also look at stuff like, especially when these are bug reports, can I reproduce it? Can I apply the patch properly? Do I know how to verify that it's working? So having a proper description of what has been done is always helpful. And so the next steps then, when I process the pull request, is that I look at the code. Is it done in a way according to the Magento docs? So there are these great documents which tell you how to write the code in a backwards compatible way, and how to do it according to best practices. And yeah, then I go through this. I try to reproduce it. So I try to make an effort and really change all the combinations that I can think of to break the patch, kind of. And most of the time, I have to say that people are doing very good work. So I hardly ever can break a patch. Yeah, and then I pass it on to the core team. And yeah, then hopefully it's in the core soon.
Oh, cool. Sorry, I'm using a different mouse and I just confused myself. If someone wants to start contributing, what would you recommend is like the first step into contribution, would you say?
What's the first step? Yeah, so I think it's also a good idea to maybe have something which you need to solve in your own project, or you want to start out with going through the issues at GitHub, and find something small, maybe some easy task which is up for grabs. Or you even might start as part of a contribution day where you have one of the maintainers or one of the core members around, and yeah, just get started. And I think important is to not be afraid of anything. You cannot break anything. There are many people helping, and yeah, just take the first baby steps.
Cool, nice. I love it. Okay, and would you be happy to share one personal thing that people might not know about you to make it a bit more human?
I think I did this before on your podcast.
Yeah. You may have done something recently.
Well, one thing I always note in this interviews is that I really love music. So I'm playing the piano for a long time. It's standing just over there. So I'm playing it for over 20 years now. And I just love to go there and maybe relax a bit. It's just let your mind wander. Also, if you're maybe stuck in a Magento problem, it can free your mind and suddenly you have that idea how to solve it. So I think it's a nice hobby to have.
Cool. I like it. My piano is just over there, but I'm definitely not as good as you are. So cool. Thank you very much, Matthias. If anyone has any questions for anybody, please feel free to drop it in the chat, and we will try and get onto those as soon as we can. But let's move on to Yaroslav. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. So firstly, welcome on board. Welcome to the stream. And how about you introduce yourself?
So yeah, my name is Yaroslav, and originally I'm from Ukraine, but a few years ago I moved to Slovakia, so I live in Bratislava at the moment. And I've started my developer's career about 11 years ago, and I have jumped in straight into e-commerce development and started from OsCommerce, and then I switched to Magento. It was about 8 years ago. And now I do mostly different technical consultations as a CTO at Ethics company, and development is more like a hobby for my free time. So.
Okay, that's cool. And so, what was your first Magento release? Let's keep that question standard then.
The very first Magento release was 1.4 for me. So it was front-end development. It was a little bit tricky, but challenging, but interesting.
Okay. And open source in general, how did you get involved with open source?
Yeah, that was tricky from the beginning. We had our company website based on WordPress, and we still have it. And we used many plugins, and many of them were buggy and required different improvements. So I started making fixes, pull requests to these plugins. And over the time, I realized that I like such commitment to the software development, and I just started doing it for a purpose, not for a purpose, but just for fun.
Cool. Now I keep losing my mouse. I'm very sorry. I'm so unprofessional at this. What do you see as like benefits for open source and collaboration from a company point of view? Because you're CTO. So from a CTO point of view, what are the benefits for collaboration and open source to you?
Yeah, as for me, the main benefit is a variety of different ideas. So you can be a really good developer, but you're always limited by your own experience. So by involving more people into the project, you always have fresh ideas and fresh things, how to do better and constantly improve your solutions. And as a developer, I admit that it's really tough to keep focus on all parts of your software and make them perfect. And by having collaborators in your project, you have a big chance to get some developer who is really good in some stuff, usually just don't pay much attention to. And yeah, now if I start some project, or if our company has some internal project, we always make it open source, not usually open source publicly, but open source inside of our company. So we provide a possibility for every developer to take part in. And it always helps to maintain the development and just not to give up.
Cool, nice. And so, well, you started being a maintainer relatively recently, I think. Like turn of the year? I say relatively recently, that's 5 months, right?
Yeah, it was in February this year.
Yeah, okay. So, so has there been anything that's kind of stood out to you as a particularly great contribution from someone that you were just kind of blown away that someone was willing to give this up for free?
I would say it was MSI project. So I saw a really great contributions on that side. So and I also took part in the MSI development, and must admit that there are really great contributions, really great parts of the system developed by community. So
cool, nice. And so, would you say that's the thing you're looking forward to most in 2.3 is the MSI part of it?
Yeah. So yeah, I really like to see it as a part of 2.3. I believe that we will not have all features there that we developed in the scope of MSI project, but in the future, I hope we'll get all of them.
Nice, cool. Yeah, I love seeing how MSI progresses, and I love how much input and how much feedback Igor is getting and taking from the community, and I love to see how we can drive the product forward with the help of the community. And with, like you said, you need to get more information from a wider group of people, not just the people in your company, and that's what's amazing for open source to me. So yeah, I love that. Okay, and then let's just have one, like I said with Matthias, one personal thing that people might not know about you and that you're willing to share. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm a big fan of computer games. So I'm playing for World of Warcraft for over 9 years, I guess, and I'm really big fan of this game and all Blizzard products. So. Okay,
so what's your character? Give us some information about your World of Warcraft character.
Usually play as a healer because I like to help people, and that's why maybe this type of character is closest to me.
Okay. Oh yeah, I get it. That goes hand in hand with maintainer, right? I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I like it. All right, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, as I said, if anyone has any questions for any of our maintainers or Olga about 2.3, then feel free to drop it in chat, and we will do our best to answer it. And now we'll move on. Last but not least, Miguel, all the way from Argentina. How are you doing, my friend? You're the only one that it's like lunchtime for, right? Everyone else, it's late night.
Yeah, it's afternoon here. It's time to stop working and start enjoying the weekend.
Cool, man. So how about we just start with introduce yourself for people that might not know.
Yep, my name is Miguel and I was born in Argentina. I travel most of the time. I just go around different countries while doing Magento events and call it a job, you know? I just tell people, okay, this is what I do. It's pretty easy, you know?
Okay, and you are currently working for Nexus, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's changed since a week, right?
No, I saw you last week or like 3 weeks ago. I don't know.
Okay. And what do you do for Nexus?
Mostly I do support. If you ever need anything about Magento, like let's say you need a Magento 2 something, that will go to me. So yeah, that's basically what I do. It's enterprise support, basically.
And how long have you been going on this Magento journey? When did it?
It's been a while. A couple of years ago, we did Mage Engage with you from Bolivia. I think you remember that. That was like three or 4 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah, not long before that, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I started with Magento 1.3, I think, something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been a while.
I don't know if you remember this, but I think we actually interviewed you for a job at my old company before you joined Nexus.
I remember that.
Okay, good. We go back. Okay, so and do you just do like Magento stuff, or do you do other stuff as well?
I like servers. Like I like the physical infrastructure, so I really enjoy that. I joined a hosting company because of that. I used to be a backend developer. Now I think about myself as a SysOps, like system operations or a DevOps, something like that. And I really like servers, like running, doing the cables and then configuring the software. I like that part too. It's one of the things I like the most currently.
Cool. I like it, man. That sounds cool. It's again, what Yaroslav was saying, a different kind of mindset, not just everyone focusing on one point.
Yeah, that's good.
So for you, what do you see as the big benefits of open source?
Well, I really like the different views we get and the diversity. I think we can actually have a lot of people contributing in the same project, and it's really hard to go to a project where you can actually work with 700 different developers, because right now we have 700 contributors on GitHub. So that's really important, in my opinion. You get to work with people from all around the globe, and by doing that, you get to see their views. You get to see how they work, and actually you get to work with them. And I find that really interesting.
Does that cause any issues in terms of like difference in mindset or difference in culture? I guess that can be quite tough.
It's hard. It's really hard. We always try to speak English, for example, but it's not the main language or the mother language everybody speaks. So it has problems, but it's okay. We are trying to make it work, and we know that. We know it's going to be a problem. We know that's not your first language, so we try to make that work. Actually,
I have issues.
Really easy.
It is my first language, so
yeah, no. It's not only that. You know, people work differently. People work in different ways. So sometimes people think doing tests is a must. Sometimes people think doing tests is optional. It's really important, you know, but we still believe that. So it's just different ways, and you get to know them all when you do maintainers work.
Do you have any kind of tips with regards to dealing with those sort of conflicts as a maintainer?
Yeah, use the template. We have a template, and people think, hey, maybe we don't need this. Maybe it's optional. No, it's mandatory. Use the template. If you want your pull request to be merged, you please use the template.
So for those that don't know, describe the template a little bit. What's it for?
The template is a text we have when you open an issue or a pull request with different placeholders, like how to reproduce this issue, the environment you were using, a couple of things we need to actually understand how to reproduce your issue. So the more context you give us, the easiest is for us to actually reproduce your problem and try to actually fix it, you know? That's why we want the template. It's not because we are, something bad, but we need it, you know? It's because of that, because it's actually important.
Cool. I love it. And what for you is the most exciting thing coming up from the 2.3 release?
I don't know. It's a tough one. I like the new instant purchase. That was from Creativity, if I recall correctly. They did that. That was so nice. I think that's gonna be really good. Really make Magento different from any other platform. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was one of the kind of first major contributions that weren't really just bug fixing. I think that was the first kind of. Obviously, we were running MSI before that, but I think this was the first kind of here's a complete contribution, which to me, I still struggle to understand why, why people would end up wanting to do that. Like, it still boggles my mind. I would love to do that. I love giving back to the community, but still, I have like, from a business point of view, it's great marketing. But other than that, it's like, okay. It's a different mindset, isn't it? Open source, I guess. Yeah. So how about, like, everyone knows that you just travel the world now. So let's give the people one more personal thing that isn't just I don't live in Argentina all the time.
I really like doing sports. When I was a kid, I really wanted to be pro. Like, I used to play rugby, soccer, handball.
You used to play rugby?
I used to play rugby. I almost made it. I know. But I really wanted to make it pro, but then I was a teenager, like going out at night, so I didn't make that. But if I weren't a programmer, I would be a sportsman, like something with sports, yeah.
Okay. I get that's quite like, okay. Taking that, like, I was thinking about this the other day. What I would be if, if I could do anything, what would you be? And I think that's kind of like you were just saying there, life got in the way and stuff. And I think that's kind of key, especially when we're thinking about contribution and open source. I think we've got to understand as well that, sometimes life does get in the way, Sometimes it's important to make sure you do family as well, and you don't burn out from a contribution side as well.
Yep, I'm not complaining, don't get me wrong. I get to travel a lot, and I'm going to see you, Max, next week in Italy, so that's going to be fun too.
Cool. All right. So actually, Matthias, we didn't ask you what you're most excited about for 2.3, right? So let's start it up.
It's also a good question. I think besides awesome things like MSI, which have been mentioned, I'm pretty curious for the page builder, because the CMS is something which is asked for quite a lot. And I think also it's great that for merchants it's an option to buy it for the open source. So I'm really curious how this plays out.
Yeah, we actually, the next live stream, so the one that's in June, we will be having a page builder team on, hopefully. I'm still trying to get that confirmed, but it looks like it will be a page builder live stream. So we'll hear more information about that, more information about the options for you. So if you are on open source edition, you are going to still be able to get page builder, which I think is awesome. I think the modular approach that we're taking to development now will be a real game changer. It's something that I've wanted for a while, and it's looking pretty positive, I think. So, okay, the one person we haven't asked about the most exciting thing about 2.3 is Olga. So, Olga, what are you most excited? You can't just say everything. What are you most excited? You've got to pick one thing.
I don't know. I probably look at GraphQL part. I think it's really interesting how it works out, and it should really improve things as everybody moving. Even like we are saying that we are making GraphQL for PWA is one of the goals, but it's not the only way how you can use it. And let's say if somebody wants to use I don't know, like Magento's microservices, if we will be moving to the microservices, or if just using headless Magento for some purposes, GraphQL should help a lot. So I'm really looking into that. I'd like to see contributions to GraphQL so we can really expand the coverage for GraphQL. I think it will be really great if it will move on in that way.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that sort of thing progresses, because we don't, at the moment, we're not 100% sure how GraphQL will be used. And so I think one of the contributions, or one of the ways of contributing back, will be like, okay, here is our use case for what we're using GraphQL. This is how we would do it in Magento 2, and contributing that back into the core. I'm looking forward to see those sort of contributions coming in, which is cool. So that's kind of all the questions that I had for the people that are here. But if anyone in chat has any questions, feel free to raise them, and yeah, we'll get them on. Otherwise, we've got a couple of minutes left before we're due to finish. So yeah, get some questions in now, and I'm going to take a drink, and we'll see if any questions. Otherwise, I'll think up some more.
If you don't have any questions, we will have 1 minute.
We got a few minutes.
So yeah, I just wanted to talk about the new thing that I'm trying to start, is to have more public architectural discussions. And I wanted to share the repo that I just created. I don't know if it will really work out in that way. Let me just share the screen. Let me know if you have a question. I don't want to break that.
That's all right. We've got time.
So, for example, we created an architecture repository, and it's possible to create pull requests with documentation, like design documents, and having a discussion around them. Design documents, proposals, maybe some other kind of documents. And we're already discussing mcrypt, migration from mcrypt to Sodium. So I also wanted to share that to let everybody know that this is what we are starting. Interesting to hear some feedback if it works.
Yeah. So what is the aim behind that, to get people involved in like the whole deeper architectural discussion point of view?
So first of all, we'd like to get feedback from community on the early stages before we implement something, not after, let's say, we release, and only then we get feedback that, okay, it could be implemented in a better way, or this extension point is not needed for us, but we need another one which we didn't include, this kind of things. Just in general, like having more people involved in the discussion, I think it creates more chances for the solution to be successful. So we'd like to have this discussion. I know that it's usually probably easier to ask simple questions from people, but I want to see if there are people in the community who are ready to be involved in more big discussion.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely sure there will be people that want to get involved in that, and I think it's a great opportunity. If you ever wanted to talk to the architectural team, if you ever wanted to see how things work inside Magento from an architectural point of view, a discussion point of view, I think this is a great opportunity. So we'll make sure we get that information out there to people that are, so that people that are interested can get into that as well. Yeah. And so there are no questions coming in, which I'm a little upset with, but that's okay. We can deal with that. I think we've had a lot of questions, and we got to know our maintainers a little bit more. Oh wait, okay, never mind. Yeah, so I'm very, very happy for you guys that you were able to join us today, and I'm very happy Olga was also able to join and share the great stuff about 2.3 that's coming up. If you are still interested in getting involved in anything to do with community engineering, then feel free to drop us an email to get involved in our Slack, and that's engcom@magento.com, and we will get you involved. Otherwise, feel free to ping me. I'm on Twitter. It's @manasd, or any of the team or the maintainers you've heard today. They'll also be able to get you involved in the Slack. You can find the information on GitHub with regards to different repositories, different projects. And other than that, I guess I just need to say thank you one more time for our guests. And thank you guys and girls out there for watching. And yeah, next time we've got Page Builder coming up. Stay tuned to find out when that is. And yeah, happy contributing, I guess. All right. See ya.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye, guys.
Bye.